Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lonely Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Ariane, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing a amazing and super talented artist from Brazil. Gustavo, mostly known as Noriyuu or Nori, is a 28-year-old Brazilian artist who graduated in design in 2017 and has been working as an independent artist since 2019. With a lifelong dream to tell stories through comics, he started his journey as an author in the later half of 2020, seeing the lockdown provoked by the pandemic as an opportunity to focus on making this dream happen. I'm just so glad that you accepted my invitation to come
Of
to the
course.
interview.
Of course, it's an honor.
The honor
Thank you
is
for
all mine. I've been reading your comic for a while and it's just so gorgeous. I don't know how you do it. I really don't know
thank
how you do it.
thank you. No, I think I'm still an amateur. I need to learn a lot.
Oh
I'm
my God,
always
no.
inspired by seeing how other artists are doing their comics and like delivering very high quality art every week. And I'm like, I don't know how these people do it. It takes me like a full week just working on an episode, and then I'm like, okay, I need to do something else. I can I can keep working on episodes nonstop. Otherwise, I'll go crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah, I understand that completely. And especially with how detailed and almost rendered your work is, I would just go insane having to do that every week.
A non-professional render. It's like I
Oh.
don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it.
Oh, come on. You need to give yourself way, way more credit. For real.
No.
I just want to jump into the questions if you don't mind, so that I can
Okay,
get
sure.
inside your head a little bit more and so that everybody else can learn a lot more about you.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right. Well, why don't you start by telling us how your art journey began?
Well, I think like most artists, I started drawing when I was a child,
Hmm.
and I was basically like every other artist when they are asked this question, say they were when they were kids. So people, grown-ups, when they were left to take care of them, brought them a paper and pens or pencils, and we sort of took care of ourselves or entertained ourselves by drawing all morning or all afternoon. So basically, that's how I started.
All right.
Uh, and then, like as I grew up, as I got into middle school and high school, I've always wanted to work with illustrations, whether it be as a concept artist or a mangaka or in animation.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to work in this area. However, since it's not something that is very encouraged by our government here.
Hmm.
Like uh, creative capital is not something our government actually incentivizes us to do. There are not many, or at least when I was younger, there were not many colleges or schools that taught you how to draw or how to get into art as a profession.
Right.
So I enrolled in design and I studied design as my graduation. And sort of my whole journey through college was like all teachers saying that illustration was something that is only useful if you're using it to sort of convey an idea. So, for example, your illustration is only useful if you draw a chair or how that chair needs to be assembled or something like that. So anything that was like a cartoon or manga or something for entertainment was very frowned upon.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so after like 3 years in college, I kind of dropped this idea of becoming an artist. And that led me to like a very depressed state because it was something that I was always certain of that I wanted to do when I grew up.
Yeah.
And I didn't see myself working in design or something like that. So when it was time to do my graduation project, I don't know if you guys have like,
Yeah, here
yeah,
in Mexico we do like a
yeah,
thesis or a project, a final project.
yes. So we have to do a graduation project by ourselves and then see if can graduate or not.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was time for me to do my graduation project, I was like, okay, since after this I don't know where I'm going to land on because I didn't have a job. I didn't see myself working in what I was studying, and it was kind of like, okay, now I'm kind of I feel like I'm old to go back uh to to school and try to graduate in something else that I felt like I could see myself potentially working in.
Right.
So I was like, okay, since it's my last project before I graduate, I'm going to focus on trying to have fun with drawing again. So after I got into college, I completely stopped drawing for like 3 years,
Oh,
and
that's
then I got back to, and then I I got back to it to work on my graduation project. So I was very rusty. I had no art style nor anything like that, but I tried to have fun with it,
hmm
and it went well. I kind of had fun with art, uh, drawing again, and it kind of led to where I am now. So after I graduated, I worked as a designer an illustrator
hmm
at a startup that focused on um, kind of doing school materials for. Uh, do you know what maker education is?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
it's kind of like it's kind of electives. So they're
Okay.
trying to add to some schools it's kind of electives that are like uh, focused on robotics or learning how to cook or learning how to work on 3D softwares. So my job was to do the illustrations for the materials for this kind of
Education,
educational,
yeah.
yeah,
That's so interesting.
projects.
It seems like they like art but only for practical uses,
Yes,
and they
yes,
don't encourage the creative side of it there, at least.
totally, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel
And
like in general, all over the world, a lot of people have this like idea or view of art as something that is not very, I don't know, important or useful for anything
yeah,
that
it's
isn't that practical.
yeah, it's not seem like a job or yeah,
Right?
something that you can do with your life.
But I'm so glad that you decided to rekindle that love for art and start doing it all over again, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And, I'm also curious about how you also got into making webcomics after all of that you went through?
Well, after a year working at a startup, I kind of got fed up because it was basically me bringing to life someone else's worldviews,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very for they try to sell like, oh, it's because we care about education or care about children or whatever, but it was all about the money.
Oh,
And yeah, and it was very easy to see because they tried to sell the idea that this company was had a lot of transparency, uh, was very uh, progressive, but then like when I started to talk to my coworkers, I learned that women who were basically doing the same work as guys in this company were getting paid less,
oh my
and I
God.
kind of got like, oh yeah, you're you guys are kind of trying to just sell me a dream that is not real. So I
Hmm.
kind of got fed up, and then I was like, okay, I still want to work with illustration, but I don't know what my paths are, what I can do with it um to well, kind of make a living out of it.
Right.
So at first, I started doing commissions, and I got to meet, and I started my Instagram account. And
Hmm.
through Instagram, I got to meet some other Brazilian artists, and I kind of ended up in this group, and this group kind of like exchanged ideas of what an illustrator can do to make a living out of art. So we all started to attending anime cons, producing merch, doing fan art, doing commissions. So basically, that was my journey through 2019
Hmm.
because I quit my job in 2018. I did this for 2019, and then I was about to continue doing it for 2020. However, the pandemic hits,
Yes.
and we got no more anime cons.
Yeah, it screwed everybody.
Yeah, and the mail post service was all locked up. No one was working in the mailing post service. So it basically became impossible to continue to make a living how I was doing in the previous year.
Right.
And like in this experience of doing commissions and doing fan art to make merch and whatever, I kind of started to learn things about how I like to approach art.
Hmm.
I basically hate doing fan art because I feel like it's very insincere. I rarely feel like I'm part of a fandom.
I see.
So I like to consume fan art, but I hate doing because I feel it's very sincere for me.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and so I quickly learned that I wanted to lean into doing original work, and I've had this idea to do a comic since I was a kid. And given the pandemic sort of broke everyone's legs, I was like, okay, if I have the time to try something new and try to do something I wanted to do forever, since forever, now is the time. This must be a sign. So um, from March to September, I started to work on actually a comic that isn't asking you.
Okay.
And and then I was like, well, since the idea of this comic has been in my head uh, since 2012, I felt like I wanted to give the best. I wanted to give. I wanted to make it the best it could be,
Hmm.
and so I felt like it would not be a great idea for it to be my first comic.
That's really smart of you to think about that because nobody realizes that it's not a good idea to make your first comic the one that you want to make the most.
I mean, I get it because it is your passion project, right?
Yeah.
So you want to work on your passion project, but I was like, oh my God, if I started by doing this comic, I'm going to ruin it. It's going to be a mess. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate myself. Yeah, so that's how like asking you started. It was supposed to be just a trial comic.
Hmm.
It was supposed to be like 6 chapters, each chapter with 6 panels, just for me to like get an idea of how long it took for me to draw panels, to figure out how to do typesetting,
Right.
to see how like the public responded to my art style and stuff like that. And at first it was supposed to be like a, a kind of silent comic with
Hmm.
just one question being asked at the end of each chapter. So it was the first chapter that I released is actually the how I planned the comic to be. So it was like 5 silent panels, and then Raji asking if
Asking.
we
Yeah.
could have a seat, and then it was about like, oh, can I have her number? Can I ask her on a date? Can uh, would you like to be my boyfriend? Would you like to move in? And would you marry me? And
That's
that would
so
be
cute.
the end of the comic.
That's amazing. I mean, that's also really cool. Although I'm so grateful that you're still doing this comic too, that you extended it.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's funny that at first, like both protagonists were going to be white males, and then I changed it like one of the protagonists to be a person of color,
Hmm.
an Arab guy. And then after I worked on the first episode, I feel like it would be very shitty of me to like add a person of color as one of the protagonists and basically not give him a chance to tell his story.
Right.
It would basically be, I don't know, kind of performative.
Hmm.
So I ended up choosing to expand the comic. And that's
And
what
now we're
I'm trying
here.
to do now. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do, basically writing each episode as they come.
That is so
Basically
beautiful. I mean,
feeling feeling pressured every week to come
I,
up with what I'm going to do. Where is
oh my
this
God.
story?
That
Where
sounds
is
really
this story going?
scary.
It is, it is.
It's like you like living dangerously.
Yes, and I'm always worried that I'm going to like shit on the bed and do something that is going to be like seen as political politically incorrect.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's very scary,
I'm sure.
especially in the era we're living in where like
Yeah,
people are very woke and everything, even if you don't mean it that way, can be taken out of context and all that. So
right. Yeah, that is very true. But I'm sure you'll be fine. I mean, I've seen your
I
work and
hope
I
so.
I don't see how you could upset the masses.
I hope so.
And tell me something, what is your favorite thing about making a comic? Like what is the part you enjoy the most?
Mm, I think it's planning the story And oh yeah, I think that's about it. Planning the stories probably, and probably being able to have a voice
Hmm.
because uh, kind of working with comics or writing novels or anything that is like putting all your work to be consumed by other people is kind of you lending your voice to stories that you want to be told, that you would like to be told, or stories that um, have messages that you think are important.
Right.
So probably that's my favorite part, like being able to touch on subjects that I think are important or pertinent and
That's
planning the
so
story.
that's
Yeah.
so lovely. I love the way you think about it and the way you consider all of that when you're creating something because it's very true, but not a lot of people think about that.
And I get it because like some people just enjoy creating comics or doing art for the sake of doing art. Is like the process of making art and making comics is what brings them like purpose.
Hmm.
For me, it used to be like that when I was younger. However, nowadays I feel like if I'm going to put something out there, I want to have a positive impact if I can afford to do so.
Yeah, of course. I
Because
totally agree.
because art is very art art throughout history was always used as a kind of tool to basically push the boundaries to go against the norms to drive narratives. And I feel like although art in itself is great and wonderful and so on and so forth, uh, I feel like to be an artist, you have to kind of have something to say
Yeah,
with your art.
I agree. And I think that's a great sentiment and mentality as well. What would you say your least favorite part of making comics is?
Oh my God, drawing.
So
The whole
basically
process of
everything,
drawing. Oh my God.
the whole part
It, it,
of
it,
drawing.
yeah, it's fun to a certain extent, but once that becomes your kind of day-to-day basis, it kind of gets tiresome, boring, it's
Mm.
samey. You wake up, you gotta sketch, and then you gotta do the line art and base colors and the shading, and then so it kind of becomes mechanical, not much fun at all.
Hmm.
And the other thing is probably publishing it because I always get a an anxiety attack every time I one of the episodes is published. I'm like, oh my God, what if nobody likes it? What if what if I'm canceled now?
Oh my God, no. You need to meditate before you post so you can feel a little bit less stressed.
Yes. I always try to engage myself in some activity when I know it's around the time the episodes are going up. So I try to focus on some activity so I can so my mind does is not like thinking about the reception of
Yeah.
the episode.
Well, that's a really good way to like focus all of that energy and stress into something else so you don't have
Yes.
to ruminate on that. And who would you say your biggest art inspirations are?
Mm, nowadays, I feel like maybe. Nadia Kim. I don't know if you know her.
I'm not sure. Is she on Instagram or on Webtoon?
She she has a Twitter.
Twitter?
She yeah, Nadia Kim.
Manda
She she's I believe she's of South Korean uh, descendancy, but she lives in the US.
Mm-hmm.
She graduated animation, and everything she draws seems like it's a screenshot of one of I don't know Disney or Pixar's short movies. One of those beautiful shots that makes you feel all warm inside. So I absolutely love her work. Actually, the first episode I did was very inspired by her drawings with how she does lighting, how she composes a scene and everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like my other inspiration would be Irie, or I think she goes by O Procrastinator or OHPRCR.
Oh my God, these names.
Yes. And I
I
think
might have to
she's
ask you to write those down for me so I
I
can
will, I
memorize
will.
them.
And I believe she's Indonesian. And oh my gosh, her art is amazing. She's like a K-pop fan, and everything she does has like the Korean very focused on fashion,
Hmm.
and
Like a Korean
so
aesthetic.
yeah,
That's so cool.
something I really love. Yeah.
What about well, because this interview also tries to become a place of support, what are some other smaller art accounts or comic book creators that you love but that you feel like maybe deserve more attention?
Can I recommend like other Brazilian
Of
comic
course.
creators?
You
Okay,
can
okay.
recommend your
They
friends, your family,
okay,
whoever.
okay. So there is this artist called Gemini Ink.
Hmm.
She, like me, she has had always this dream of becoming an artist and doing comics. And now she's basically doing her passion projects that she had since she was 12 years old.
That's so cool.
And it's a mahou shoujo comic called Seasons of Avalon. And it's in English, so you can find it on Webtoon or Tapas.
Nice.
And another that's called Manda Fritas. She's also Brazilian. She actually published her first comic through an publishing company here in Brazil, and now she's releasing her second comic. She's not very well known. However, like she's um an inspiration for all of us Brazilians who want to have our comics published because she managed
Oh.
to do that. She also released her first comic on Webtoons
Mhm.
and Tapas, I believe. Um, as I like to recommend also a friend of mine who is also my better reader, Deskachan. Uh, she's currently struggling a bit with how she wants to tackle art. However, she wants to venture into comic creation. Basically, her ideas are more leaning to child stuff, more leaning to fantasy, very cute, cute ideas like fairies helping children who are maybe neglected by the parents, and
Oh.
they help these children navigate through life. And another one would be Otaku Rose. She's not. a comic writer, but she's a novel writer.
Hmm.
She's a novelist and she writes her novel on tapas. It's two alphas of, oh my God, Rosewood Creek. I'll send you the link.
Yeah,
I
don't worry.
forgot the
We're going
title.
to
Yeah.
list everybody in the
Yeah.
description because I will not remember these names and I'm not gonna try
Yes.
to write them.
No, my brain's a mess. But she's black creator, so and she's writing a novel about polyamory. The protagonist is a black guy, so I feel like if you want a story that has a lot of inclusion and a lot of empathy and a lot of care put into it, that would be a nice read.
Yeah.
And of course, you,
Oh my God, no.
who, yes, you, who's doing amazing by featuring comics in your platforms, your YouTube channel, bringing artists to interview them,
That is so
and
sweet. Stop.
and also like I don't know how you manage to do so many comics at the same time. Like I literally don't know how you do it. I
Honestly,
don't.
I just like hate myself way too much and I just like to torture myself. This question I really like to ask because I genuinely would also like to know like what kind of advice would you give people who follow you who also want to become artists themselves?
I think I have like two advices that I see as the most important. First, it would be to not have an ego
Okay.
because I see a lot of new artists coming up and having like big egos and not not liking to see people pointing out how they can get better
Mhm.
or thinking they don't need to practice to become better artists themselves, and they end up like stagnant. They end up not improving and end up getting bitter at other people's improvements and success.
Hmm.
And I've seen a lot in like circles of artists that I've been put in, which I don't participate in any circle of artists anymore because I feel like the energy is very competitive, not very healthy.
I see.
So I feel like not having an ego to begin with is the best way to go. Is like knowing yourself, being your biggest critic, knowing yourself that you always have room to improve, that practice doesn't really make it perfect, but practice pay off,
Hmm.
and that since you're putting your work out there, people are going to criticize. Some people are going to give you constructive criticism. Some people are just going to be assholes,
Yeah.
and we have to accept that it's part of creating art. That's part of creating art and putting our work to be consumed by
Right.
other people.
That is so
And
true.
and the other thing would be that if you want to actually make art your profession, make a living out of it, you have to see art as a job. As much fun as you can have by producing art and making illustrations, making comics. If you want to make a living out of it, you have to face it as a regular job. You have your deadlines. You have to be your own boss and tell yourself, okay, maybe I'm not feeling good today, so I'm going to take a break. However, tomorrow I have to work twice as much to compensate what I didn't work on the previous day. You have to be very diligent about it. As much as it can be seen as a hobby, if you're about to face it as something to make a living off of, I think you also have to be professional about what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, no, that's also very true. I love how people are always like, "Oh, but you just draw every day." Like, yeah, no, it's not
Yeah,
just that.
you don't get how stressful and tiresome that is, like
Yeah.
drawing 10 hours a day and then
Yeah.
sleeping for 4 or 5 hours, waking up and having to plan things, and then getting your mindset ready to spend 10 more hours drawing or looking for references
Yeah.
or struggling with one single drawing because you can get your perspective right or the
Yeah.
colors are not working.
It's like 5 hours just looking for references, and then the other
Yes,
5 hours just like fidgeting
yes,
with one of your sketches that just doesn't turn out right.
yes. So I think it's like, yeah, my biggest advice is don't go into it thinking it's going to be fun always,
Mhm.
because I think people who think it's going to, oh, it's just drawing, it's going to be fun all the time. I mean, it is fun. I love drawing. I love what I do. But of course, there are times that I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do anything else but draw.
I get
But
that.
I have to meet my deadlines. I have to keep going, and that's something I will have to do if I was working on 9 to 5.
Mhm.
And basically, I think it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. And what are your plans for the future? Do you have any regarding your work, your social media presence? Like what's next for you?
Well, regarding social media, I have no plans. I hate social media. Oh my
You
God.
and me. I
Oh
hate
my
it
God.
too.
I I was not born with a marketing kind of skill.
Mm.
I don't know how to market anything. I don't know how to market myself. I'm just like, okay, I hope my work speaks for itself and it goes well because I could not sell anything I do.
Yeah.
So regarding social, and I think we spend too much time like checking social media and worrying about algorithms and numbers and whatever.
Mhm.
And we spend too little time thinking about the quality of our work or spend less time in trying to improve the quality of our art. So I just like social media just it's something I have to do, but it's not something I plan on.
Yeah. No, I
on
get that.
I have big plans about. But regarding my work, I hope I can continue to work on asking you until the end. I don't know yet if uh, the secondary couple I'm planning is going to be inserted in the main body of uh, asking you, or if it's going to be a spin-off.
Okay.
I still don't know. And after I'm done with asking you, I'm going to work on my passion projects as well.
I love that. And I see that you have several. You have like two or three more, right? Or at least that's what I
Yes,
saw on your the
yes.
thing like I don't know what it's called like card something card
Cardco,
go.
yeah,
Yes.
yes.
I was
I
reading
kind
through
of
it
have,
and I was like,
yeah.
I want to read those too.
I kind of have ideas lined up.
Yeah,
However, it takes time
of course,
to produce
yeah.
that.
Who knows?
And another thing is, I want to keep like making an income enough so I can keep giving some of what I make to charity because I started donating a percentage of what I make each month to a charity here in Brazil, organization here in Brazil that helps like LGBTQ youngsters that have been kicked out of their homes by their families
Mm-hmm.
to uh, have a footing again. So they provide food, shelter, access to healthcare, access to therapy. So I want to keep doing that as well, hopefully,
That
with
is
the
so
support of
beautiful. I
with
am so
hope.
happy you're doing that.
I mean, it's the least we can do if we want to actually make the world a better place, right?
Hmm. I agree. That is just, I mean, but it's easy to talk the talk, but it's not easy to walk the walk, and you're actually doing something which is like super admirable.
I just hope I can inspire other artists to do the same because I think nowadays it's easy to like use the big topics that are in discussion nowadays due to wokeness and things like that
Hmm.
for brownie points. Yeah, not actually doing the work to make things change. So
For
I
sure.
mean, of course, it's always great to have representation of BIPOC characters and queer characters and polyamory and all those things. However, I mean, we live in a capitalist world. If we want to play the game, we need to play with money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I hope other people will feel inspired to also do the same. Of course, to each their own. It's their money. They do what they want with it. However,
And finally, my favorite question of them all. If you could have any magical art power to help you in your artistic process, what would you like that to be?
I mean, is there any other correct answer other than being able to translate into paper or screen what you see in your head? Because I feel like I feel like that's every artist's dream to be able to actually put into paper what you visualize in your head because that never happens. You're always like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I suck so bad.
In your head, it's just like gorgeous, and then you draw it, and
Yeah.
it's like. That is a very good power. I hope that one day we figure out a way to do it so
Right.
we can actually do it.
However, I feel like that will be the end of us as artists.
Well, then
Because
it'll be
everyone,
like imaginators or something like that, right?
yeah, that could be a thing. I mean, yeah.
Just trying to see the world with that as a job. Well, guys, that was it for today's episode. I hope you had a great time. I certainly did. And I hope to be seeing you here very soon.